buddy? Oh shit. Volume 16 of Berserk. Damn. Pretty much this is just showing us that, what Guts has become within this volume of Berserk. I mean, Guts is literally becoming a demon. This was kind of, speculated in the previous volume, and also, what Guts has gone through in the past. But this brings up the question within this volume of Berserk, is Guts really human? Like, just what goes down within this volume of Berserk. I mean, Guts is literally, like, killing off everything, and just the past, things that have been brought about in Guts' life, it just really begs the question, can he be human if, he is performing all of this activity that no ordinary human would be able to survive against? Guts is literally the only human that we know of right now that is surviving all of these acts. No ordinary human would, and I mean, he's battling it out with demons. In the previous volumes of Berserk, even before the eclipse, he was battling it out with various other strong enemies, even demons, even battling it out with Zod. And the first time with Zod, like, he didn't stand a chance, but over time, as he developed his skills and, his battlefield skills, he just became a monster at pretty much destroying everything within his path. So it's like, man. And then we get that one page, or that one scene in this volume where we see Guts, he's wounded in the forest. He is, trying to, escape from the Holy Iron Chain Knights, and then all of a sudden the spirits behind him are appearing, and one of them takes the shape of a monster, and the spirits are telling Guts that if you keep killing, you will become a demon yourself. You will become a monster yourself, because the more that the monster thirsts, the more you're going to kill, and this is just really foreshadowing that, something big is going to go later down the line in Guts' character. Like, he might even become a demon himself. He might just go completely berserk, the title name, and just completely destroy everything within his path. He might not even regain his sanity. I mean, Guts at this point has crossed a line to the point of no return, to the point where, this Berserk is literally playing out like a tragedy type of story, I mean, I guess you can classify Berserk as a tragedy. I mean, really, it's not really, but in the way how I see Berserk, it's becoming a tragedy, because from the beginning of Guts' past to the present of Guts and what is going to unfold in the future, I mean, even Kentaro Miura himself, I think, stated in an interview that, with such a dark story of Berserk, there is no way that you can end it lighthearted. So, Guts is literally becoming a tragic hero, and he might end up dying. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with this volume. I really don't, because really this is just showing how much of a monster Guts has become. I mean, he is taking on Rosine, which was the queen elf that we saw in the previous volume of Berserk, and he is at the little hideout that she is in, and there's like cocoons everywhere, to where these cocoons are making more of these childlike sort of elves, and Guts completely just slashes, these cocoons, and the blood and everything just pours out. The dead corpse, the blood's pouring out, it's all over him, the intestines come out, and he is chewing on this thing, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, I need to breathe there for a minute, dude. Like, Guts. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. This chapter was just freaking insane. Probably the most messed up thing I have seen since the eclipse. Like, oh man. I don't even know where to begin with this volume. Whew, okay. Alright, too hype right now. This volume was just awesome. So, I mean, Berserk is just such an amazing series. It deserves the hype it gets. Now, when it comes to the other stuff that went down in this volume of Berserk, rather than the stuff that I have mentioned before, we seem to have an end to the Guts versus the Queen Elf sort of battle that partaked within this volume, which we know as Rosine. Rosine is the Queen Elf. Now, Rosine, she got fucked up, dude. She got wrecked. She got wrecked, simply put. You know, we had it to where Guts ended up freaking slashing her in half, almost in half. Not technically in half, but a good portion of her body was removed by the final battle of this volume. You know, we had it to where her arm just completely got cut off, and a good portion of her body still ended up getting cut off as well. However, half of her body, you know, didn't necessarily get cut off. Like, a good portion. Okay, we have a figure right here. Okay, basically, her arm got cut off, and a good chunk of her stomach or so got cut off due to this swing that Guts ended up giving her with his Dragon Slayer sword. So, all in all, it almost killed the Queen Elf, Rosine. However, she sustained a massive amount of blood loss, and we see by the end to that particular scene where she is about to die, at least from what it seems, she ends up having enough strength to fly off and go home, necessarily. Almost in a way how Peacock ended up going to the village, which we found out in the last volume. Peacock was that little fairy tale that was brought about in the town where she grew up in. She grew up with this story, and she herself thought that she was like Peacock, you know, and it seems that, you know, when she was flying off with the last amount of her restraint, she was heading home, kind of like how Peacock was, you know, going from the woods back to his own house, but only to discover that, you know, Peacock ended up coming to a place where it was like 1,000 years or maybe 100 years in the future or something like that. I can't really remember. But in this case, when it comes to Rosine, she ends up traveling home only to basically fall down flightless because of the amount of blood she ended up losing. Now, we don't really know, or at least I don't really know, if she is dead. I don't know if she is dead, but it just seems like how the way it ended, it seems like she is dead. However, she could still be alive. There is always that possibility that she could be still alive. But if she is alive, when will she make another appearance? Oh, but when Jill wanted to, you know, go along with Guts and his journey, you know, oh, that was such an emotional scene, you know, where we have it to where Guts is basically telling Jill that if you come along with me, you are not going to enter a paradise filled with sunshines and rainbows. You are going to enter a living hell. Anyone who is in contact with my life, you know, becomes a part of hell itself, is basically what he was trying to explain to Jill. But even that, you know, that's his battlefield. Guts stated that, you know, the supernatural entities who he comes across in his own life are his battlefield that he must partake in, and he tells Jill that you must battle it out with your own battlefield that you are having troubles with and such, you know, aka, you know, her parents, you know, not always getting along, and her just not thinking that she could find a place for herself. You know, Guts says you need to solve your own problems while I need to solve mine. And in general, it also brings about that, you know, when he stated that all the darkness around me is like a battlefield within itself, basically he was technically saying that all around, wherever in life you may go, you're always going to be covered and darkness, because there is always evil within the world, and you know, there's hardly any good in it. And necessarily you can sort of agree with that. I mean, while we do live, you know, somewhere where we can, you know, bring joy to others, and you know, respect others, and you know, always have a good time with one another, you know, at the same time, while we also have these good things in life, you know, we always are going to encounter a battlefield that we must overcome ourselves, because there is constantly, you know, crime going on, bloodshed, evil in general. You know, there's always some sort of obstacle that we must overcome, and that makes it a battlefield for ourselves. I mean, maybe I'm looking too much into this, but that's just like what I kind of got out of this volume of Berserk when Guts was saying that, and I just thought that was an amazing scene when Guts was telling this all to Jill, and I just can't wait if this part of the anime ends up getting animated. Like, this scene is going to be awesome. Now, I just wanted to bring up one little scene that was within this volume of Berserk that was just like, what? Like, okay, we have it to where we see another scene where the Skull Knight reappears, and we haven't seen him for a little while. You know, in volume 14 is technically the last time we actually saw the Skull Knight. Now, he ends up coming across a battlefield in which these trees are completely charred down to the ground, otherwise known as, you know, they are completely demolished from the fire, and he also is stumbling upon a battlefield in which there are childlike bodies within the ground himself. And this makes me think that the Skull Knight has officially, you know, stepped upon the activity of Guts, you know, what he previously ended up doing to these childlike creatures, the fairies, you know. So I guess the Skull Knight, you know, is tracking down Guts. So what is he tracking him down for? Is it simply just to look after him? Or is there something more? Like, there's something more in general to this Skull Knight, which we barely know, because also within this scene, we see him reach into one of the trees, and he pulls out a behelit. A behelit. Another one. Like, what? Like, there's another behelit, because I remember, you know, Guts, he ended up having one previously. He has it within his pocket, but now there's another behelit. I know there's various other behelits throughout the world, but to think that there was actually one behelit, you know, hidden away in plain sight, you know, from Guts himself, like, it's very, okay, I don't know what I'm talking about now. One thing I wanted to mention within this volume of Berserk that just had me like, whoa, like, we had it to where the Skull Knight reappears once again, and it seems like he is tracking down Guts, because it seems like he was in the same vicinity that Guts was once in. I mean, you know, there are trees that are completely charred down to the ground, and also there are childlike corpses on the ground as well, and those are probably the childlike corpses that were once from the childlike fairies that Guts previously battled it out with. So it seems like the Skull Knight is actually tracking down Guts, but what exactly is he doing? Is he just, you know, following him in order to, you know, just track down his activity, I guess? Because he did state, you know, how far is this human willing to go, and that just brings about another topic, you know, or the same topic that I mentioned before, you know, is Guts a human? How far is he willing to go before he ends up becoming a monster himself? So there's that, and then he ends up, the Skull Knight, the Skull Knight ends up noticing something within a tree. He pulls it out, and it happens to be a behelit. Another behelit. So, what does he do with this behelit? He simply stashes it away within his mouth. He eats the thing. So, you know, I got a theory with the Skull Knight. I've had this for a while. I just probably never have spoken about it before. At least if I have spoken about it, it was probably in my earlier reviews of Berserk. But my theory right now of the Skull Knight is, from what we got in volume 10, I believe, Princess Charlotte ended up telling Guts about this general that had a helmet in the shape of a skull, and his name was General King Geyserek, but he had no apparent history whatsoever about, you know, an army or whatnot, but he was a great help to the formation of the Kingdom of Midland, from what we heard of. Now, as you could probably already tell, you know, King Geyserek is definitely, you know, someone who was, you know, previously before the Skull Knight ended up becoming about. But the thing about the Skull Knight is, who exactly is the Skull Knight? Because we do know that he is involved with these apostles, and he is apparently the rival to Zod. So, you know, and then we got that story about the 5 angels, the 5 God Hand, you know, which we knew as, you know, those 4 other gods, and also there's Femto, which is Griffith. Griffith was technically the 5th one. But is Griffith technically the 6th one? You know, what if the Skull Knight was a part of the 5 God Hand, you know, previously, if there was a previous 5? And did they have some sort of falling out? Like, the Skull Knight ended up, you know, General King Geyserek ended up becoming a god from the God Hand, and did he become an apostle? But at the time, you know, maybe he had like a falling out with like the other demons, to the point where, you know, now he is against these other apostles, because, you know, the Skull Knight, we know he is a demon himself, you know. So I don't know, I'm still very, you know, confused as what exactly the Skull Knight can be, and I hope that gets explained soon, because I really do want to, you know, find out, you know, the origins behind the Skull Knight and who he truly is like. And, you know, I know I'm very far behind with Berserk. I mean, this is only Volume 16. I just completed Volume 16, and there's about 37 volumes of Berserk, and the series is still not finished, so I still don't know everything about Berserk, but definitely I want to figure out more about the Skull Knight. And of course, by the end of this volume of Berserk, we see that Farnese, which is the commander of the Holy Iron Chain Knights, she ends up capturing Guts. And the whole reason why Guts ended up getting captured in the first place was simply put, you know, from the previous battle that he faced with the Queen Elf. You know, he is completely wounded at this point, and, you know, he was also battling it out with some of the other Holy Iron Chain Knight soldiers, you know, and he even took down quite a couple of them, even though he was wounded, you know. But, you know, sadly he ended up getting captured. But I mean, like, dang, like, Guts, dude, like, his strength is immeasurable, like, compared to a normal human. Like, Guts, fucking badass, dude. But so it looks like, you know, how things ended up going down with this volume of Berserk. And also, at the final part of this volume, we see Guts end up getting captured by Farnese, which is the commander of the Holy Iron Chain Knights, a group who has been following Guts since, you know, volume 14 of Berserk, since, you know, technically after the eclipse. And they finally found him, and it seems that they actually have a hold of him now and are keeping him in custody. You know, they're locking him in a cage now. But how did he end up getting captured? Well, you know, simply put, you know, Guts was wounded from the previous battle that he sustained with the Queen Elf, Rosine, you know, and, you know, still, even then, you know, when he ended up coming into contact with the Holy Iron Chain Knights, he still went ahead and took down several other soldiers, even though he was wounded already, you know, from that battle that he sustained previously. And, like, dude, my dog Guts, like, his strength is just immeasurable. Like, is he human? That's all you can say about. That's probably gonna be the title of my Berserk volume review. Like, just, is he human? Because he just goes onto feats and beyond of what a normal human would, and it's just so awesome. But yeah, we see that Guts ends up getting captured by the Holy Iron Chain Knights, and they are locking him away inside a prison. And, you know, we had that one interrogation scene where Farnese was trying to interrogate Guts and make him spill the beans, so to speak, you know, as to the atrocities that Guts has now committed and has committed in the past. And simply put, you know, we know as the viewer that, or the reader I should say, that Guts has undergone, you know, stuff from the eclipse. You know, he's been in contact with various demons and is still in contact to this day because of the brand of sacrifice. But given that, people are not going to believe him, because he states to Farnese that, have you even seen a god? Have you even seen a demon? Do you even know what those are? And I'm not talking about, you know, a statue that you worship. And this angers Farnese, you know, because, you know, she ends up just freaking slashing away with a whip, you know, on Guts' chest. And Guts is just standing there like, yeah, I can take this all day, lady. I've, you know, experienced enough pain as it is. This doesn't faze me one bit. Like, I was just like, dude, Guts, you're a badass, dude. You're a badass. But, yeah, like, when it comes to this volume of Berserk, filled with action, you know, definitely a lot of foreshadowing when it comes to Guts' character. This definitely, you know, was a volume that was centered around the conflict and the sort of dilemma that Guts has now gotten himself into, as far as what he had experienced in the eclipse. Is he end up going to become a demon himself? You know, so there's a lot of, you know, mysteries still revolving around, you know, certain characters like the Skull Knight, etc. And if Guts will end up becoming a demon at all. And also, you know, the Holy Iron Chain Knights. You know, there's more to them that meets the eye. And, you know, eventually, will they end up believing Guts? At the same time, I don't think they will, because unless they actually experience it, you know, experience the demons that Guts has come across in his life, if they experience that with him, then they are most likely going to believe him. And that's probably going to happen in volume 17 of Berserk, which is still on my shelf right there, because at the very end of volume 16 of Berserk, while Guts is within that cage, you know, it's nighttime and a demon is sprouting from the ground, and as we know, demons usually lurk in the shadows at night. So yeah, stuff is definitely going to get more intense as, you know, I read throughout these volumes of Berserk, and I am just really, really enjoying this series. Let me know what you guys thought about this volume in the comments section down below. And of course, if you like this video, don't forget to drop a like. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want to stick up to date to my future content on this channel, guys, and see more Berserk videos from me, then please be sure to hit that red subscribe button below, and you'll never miss a video from me. That about does it for this video, guys. Love you all, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.